Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution.
The script alone could fry your circuits.
High Voltage suffers from low wattage.
Short on thrills and energy despite its title.
High Voltage fizzles more than it rocks.
Clumsy and corny, the film plays like a pat showbiz cautionary tale, half-heartedly reworked into lurid pulp.
Both the title and the concept of High Voltage sounds as though it plays everything cheesier than Velveeta.
Even below B-movie quality. Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
This week, we're getting into the 2018 indescribable classic, High Voltage.
Great way to describe it.
Yes. This is a movie. This is a one-of-one kind of movie, I think. And if, in case you're confused, there are two movies with the same name, High Voltage, that came out in 2019. This is the High Voltage with David Arquette as the star. So if you're tuning in for a different 2018 High Voltage, time to tune back out, I guess.
I think it also goes by the name Hollow Body as well.
I wonder if they knew there was this other High Voltage movie. It seems like a strange thing to have happen.
I think High Voltage is an awesome name, and so is Hollow Body. I think that's what
it's like they have two just great names, and they should have just done both.
I don't know. They kind of did by using it in the movie.
Yeah, right, exactly. As always, the movies that we review and discuss on this podcast are all going to be at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audience score. We structure the podcast so that the first half is spoiler-free, talk about some things, some background, some things to look for in the film, take a break, go watch the film, come back and talk about what we just watched. And this week we have a special guest appearances in the second half of the podcast. We have Ryan Gibson, who's a producer on the film, and Alex Keledjian, who's a director, writer, producer, everything, really, the everyman of the film as well, joining us to talk about the film and their work with it, and then talk about some other projects they have going on. So very excited to have them on for that.
Yeah, our first Emmy-nominated guest, I believe, is appearing on our show today.
Unless you're listening to this in the future, in which case I assume most of our guests are.
Oh, that's a good point. That's right. Yep. One of our many.
Yes.
Emmy-nominated guests. You wanted me to get to the rotten premise?
Let's hear it.
When the shy lead singer of a struggling rock band gets struck by lightning and is suddenly able to give electrifying performances, it comes at a terrible cost. Critics, 33%. Audience, much lower at 10%. Critics like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of these films where I'm actually not going to say I'm shocked that people didn't love it. Because I think it's one of these films that's not for everyone. And I think we've talked about this before, that there are great and really fun and entertaining films that aren't going to be for everyone. And that's totally fine. And I think this is one of those films. So I think this is a bit of a niche film. I think it is a film that it's not a perfect movie, but it has a lot of elements that are great. And has a lot of elements that make me wanting to go back and watch it again. And I think that's what I'm excited to get into.
I was listening to another movie podcast, and they use the term when a movie's kind of like this, where it's not, I guess it's not going to win like awards, and it's not a unanimous 100% score for everyone, but it's a great movie. It may not be perceived as a good movie by a lot of people, but it is a great movie to people who enjoy it. And that's where I fall with this movie. I think this is a great movie. Some may not think it's a good one, but I disagree. I think it's a great movie because if you focus on what you're getting as opposed to what you're not, I think you're going to really enjoy the movie.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to love in this film. It doesn't shy away from getting in your face. Like it's a fun film that just brings it.
And we're going to get really into it, of course, because we're having some of the makers, the creator on and the producer from the movie, and we'll go into more depth. But it's also a movie that isn't like many other movies. You don't put this on and you're like, oh yeah, this is just like that other movie I've seen. It's not like that at all. So if you want a unique movie, this is a great place to start.
Absolutely. So I can get into a little bit of background. I won't go into too much because I know we're going to have some extra time with some of the producer and the creator here. But the movie did come out October 19th, 2018. I wasn't able to see any financial information on this. It was a pretty limited release, and it went on sort of video on demand pretty quickly. But it did come out the same weekend as the first Halloween reboot. That was number one that weekend. And just to give a little bit of background on the main character, I guess the main character, David Arquette, had to go into this because he is a decorated actor. And when I say decorated, I mean of the highest kind, as we often speak of on this show. He is a 3-time Blockbuster Entertainment Award winner.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he won Favorite Actor Horror, Scream 2 in 1998. Then he won Favorite Supporting Actor, totally different role, a comedy romance for Never Been Kissed in 2000. And then he comes back in Scream 3 and wins Favorite Actor for Horror again in 2001. That is a ridiculous 3-year
range. He's got 2 horror movies. He's got this movie, and then he's got obviously other Blockbuster Award winner for Never Been Kissed, which is a really good movie if you haven't seen it, from the early 2000s.
Yeah, and then his career is just really kind of remarkable. I mean, he obviously does a lot of interesting films that probably people haven't heard of, like this film, but he was also an off-and-on pro wrestler, including holding the World WCW Heavyweight Championship for 12 days in 2000. It was a bit controversial at the time, but you can't take that away from him. He was literally the World Heavyweight Championship for WCW.
And that's one of the benefits of winning the title, is no one can ever take that away from you. Those were his 12 days.
He runs his own clothing line, obviously fitting with this role. He was in a band, probably multiple bands. He owns a nightclub. He's a certified Bob Ross painting instructor. And he also recently purchased the rights to Bozo the Clown, and is, I can't wait to see what he does, but he has plans to bring the character back. So I can't wait to see that. You might say he's a Renaissance man. In fact, I would say he's a Renaissance man.
I think, I was just about to say he's a Renaissance man. So yeah, absolutely. It's crazy that someone known for one ability, it may not even be their strongest ability as far as acting.
Right. You go and you win 3 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards in the before the year 2001, and then you change it up and go out and do all these other things. That's amazing. And
Bozo the Clown could be his greatest work yet. He just hasn't got to it yet.
I expect that it will be.
Want to get to our bolos?
Let's do it.
Well, we'll start off with, you might see these. I don't know if this is part of his clothing line strategy or not, but bolo scarves or ascots. I'm not quite sure the difference, but definitely look for scarves. Yep,
I had that as well. They are prominent, and they become more prominent throughout the film, which is it's almost like they're contagious.
Yeah, it gets more and more. If you're paying attention to the scarves, it gets better and better and better.
Yes, this has got to be our biggest scarf movie ever.
I don't think it's even close.
Yeah.
La Femme. No, yeah, this is it.
This is it.
Yep.
That's a great one. I'm going to stay on the clothing line, and not nearly as prevalent, but always exciting when they show up. Bolo a beret.
Good one. Bolo a hot kiss.
Ooh, yes. I'm going to say Bolo a cat explanation.
Bolo a male cat.
I'm going to say Bolo a really nice white chair. The chair is I'm surprised it wasn't in the credits for how important this chair is.
I'm just piggybacking, but it's just, I have it written down as my notes differently, but be on the lookout for a very high-armed chair.
It's almost a throne. It's like the arms of a throne, but without the back of a throne.
I think it shows up it's said to be a throne at one point in the movie.
Yes. And then this just came, this is right off the dome now that we're talking about this. I'm going to say Bolo David Arquette on multiple thrones.
Very good. Bolo daddy duty.
I will go Bolo the spotlight.
Bolo a stacking toy, which is maybe the most, if you have kids of a certain age, this toy represents that you have a kid of that age. If you see the stacking toy, it's a stacking toy that exists in everyone's house if they have a kid at that age.
Yep. Absolutely know what you're talking about. I am going to say Bolo, or this is a be on the listen out, a crazy news story.
I have that as well. A throwback news story. Yep. Bolo, luck changing.
It's a lot about luck and fortune in this film. I will say, and this is probably just a bit on the nose, but Bolo lightning.
Yep. A little throwback to our last movie, Bolo birdies.
Yes. I will say Bolo, the drummer and the bassist. They are a bit fleeting.
Bolo veins.
I'll say Bolo mirrors. A lot of mirrors. A big
lot
mirror.
Of mirrors. Bolo saying the wrong thing to your wife.
Which happens a lot. I feel there's a lot of, and maybe that's just a reflection of reality, but I feel like in a lot of the films we talk about, there are a lot of saying questionable things to your wife or not listening to your wife's advice.
Yeah, and as a former teacher, being around many women, they did often talk about their husbands negatively, and from the movies we watch, I can understand why.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of lessons to be learned from these films. I think we probably hit this already, but I just said Bolo bathroom scenes.
Yep. Good one. Bolo, a parent blowing up your spot.
Yep. That was all my bolos.
Let's see. I got 3 more here. Bolo, puke and rally.
Yep.
Bolo, heart attacks. And Bolo, a once in a lifetime thing.
Mm-hmm. Solid.
I feel like this is going to be a fun one, but what drink do you choose to pair with this movie?
So I had a very specific drink and / experience, and I think it's one of these things that gets you in the mood for the movie, is fitting with the movie. It really just hits all the right notes. So I'm going to say, get yourself a bottle of champagne, but don't just stop there. Get it bottle service style. So I want you to get, I don't know if I've never done this, but I've seen it in movies, and I think I've maybe seen one once in my life in person. But when you get, a bottle of champagne at a club, it'll show up with like sparklers attached to it, so that the waitress bringing it over to your table, it's a whole scene. So I'm saying, get yourself, you can do it at home. You don't need to go out to a club for this, but get yourself some champagne sparklers, light them up, crack into this bottle of champagne, and just crush it by yourself.
I love how champagne came up again. We always have champagne as our drink when it's like an extreme of like, have it warm or crush it by yourself or have sparklers. And this is the perfect movie to, get some sparklers, make it a big deal, but ultimately end up consuming it yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a great movie about excess and consumption and just burning bright.
That's a great choice. I went with a little less specific, but I feel like these types of like shows, if you ever get pulled into going to one of these like band shows, there's always like either a small bar with limited options, or there's like a table with a few drinks on it that you can make yourself. And I feel like a it tastes great, but a low price whiskey, specifically Rittenhouse Rye, which I was going to say, and then I saw in the background in the movie that they had Rittenhouse Rye in there. It just seems like you should, this is very similar to yours, but get a bottle of Rittenhouse Rye. You don't have to finish the whole thing, but if you have any like half-opened cans of Coke or Diet Coke.
Oh yeah, a little bit flat.
A plastic cup. You put a couple stray cubes in your cup and just slowly sip on some like poorly made or not mixed at all version of Rittenhouse Rye throughout the movie.
I like that a lot. I love that you also found it. A little Bolo Rittenhouse Rye.
Yeah, it was up on the fireplace at one point.
That's fantastic. Great choice. You can't go wrong with either of those options, sort of maybe multiple or different ends of the spectrum. So have your choice or do both. And
by the end, you'll feel either awful or great. Who knows?
Yeah. So
awesome. All right, we'll take a break here, and we'll meet our guests and get on to the second half. And you give you
awesome.
Give you a chance to watch the movie. Enjoy.
Once there was a band, 3 people brought together by music. I brought my axe, Rachel brought her golden voice, and Scott brought the tunes. I thought maybe my luck had changed. It did. It got worse. struck by lightning. Dead for 3 hours, her mom killed right next to her. So you think after that, she'd take it easy? Wrong. You cheat death, you don't cash out. You double down.
That lightning did something to her, I'm telling you.
You never did that before. There's a lot of things I've never done before. I keep 50% of whatever the band makes, and I want $1 million in marketing. Why don't we move somewhere a little bit more private?
Said she had mental problems, not magical powers. Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties. And we have our guests, Alex Keledjian and Ryan Gibson. Alex is the probably, I don't know if you're most known for, but being the creator of Project Greenlight. Also wrote, produced, and directed this movie, High Voltage. I heard the anecdote from Freaks, so I won't give you too much credit, but you are a producer on Freaks, which I heard, which is an awesome
going
movie.
public. But that that's part of our deal is we just are honest about it. Like, I'm sure people would be like,
That's part of
that was incredible.
I'll get to this in a second about your podcast, but that's part of what's so great about your podcast is that sort of look behind the curtain into how that all goes on. And we also have Ryan here, who is an Emmy Award. I made a mistake in our intro that I said Emmy nominated, but Emmy Award-winning producer.
Also nominated, I suppose.
Also nominated. I wasn't wrong then, yeah.
Tony nominated.
Both.
Let's get it right. Get it right.
He also worked on God's Country, Whoa, visual effects artist for years, and now on to producing. And Stan Steamer and I are super excited about an upcoming release of yours, the horror comedy Slaughterhouse, which looks incredible.
I knew it.
But also worked on Fear the Walking Dead and Stand Against Evil. And they're both the hosts of How I Got Greenlit, the podcast, which is how we got to know each other.
Thanks for the introduction, fellas.
Yeah.
You got, and I mentioned it before, but that podcast is really, really good. If you want to get a sense as to behind like the scenes and behind the curtain in the movie industry, there's no better podcast out there. It's a really enjoyable podcast.
Thank you very much.
Well, there are probably some hosted by, B or C list talent that are.
Well, none that I've heard.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I guess we're also fans of yours and of the genre, and it's fun to share. I mean, I meant what I said. Like, it makes us feel part of the a community.
We have the most fun on doing this stuff, like
this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like,
we love
this.
This.
Great because like we're all in different cities right now, like but having like a beer. I mean, I'm having a beer. I don't know what you guys are doing, but
I'm having a very good whiskey. Yep.
I'm having a Courvoisier.
There it is. But that's great. And I think especially for men, in a weird way, it's like we're at the pub and we're shooting the shit. And for most, I think, American males of a certain age, pop culture is our safe zone.
I think yours might have. You said your podcast started to try and get sober a little bit more during the pandemic. And
sober? Wait, what?
Ours,
my PR? Hey, what is this? Where's my PR girl? Get over it. What happened here? All right, no, sorry, what?
And we didn't do that, but kind of just give us something to do a little bit during the pandemic. That's where ours started as well. So we're just like,
so it's all that, yeah. It's all that. I mean, by the way,
him and I both love watching movies, and we hate watching movies with people who are like, "Oh, that would never happen," and they nitpick stuff and they try to feel smart. We can't stand it. Stan Steamer and I, our first movie we did was The Net, because we just couldn't believe with Sandra Bullock like how that poorly rated that movie was. And we just had to have a positive podcast on it, and it's kind of grown from there.
Yeah, I feel like we also came from that era of, and you guys did too. We just didn't know that movies were poorly rated. We saw a bunch of movies growing up, and you're like, yeah, The Net kicks ass, and then you find out later that people think it doesn't. And there's just a whole world of movies like that are fucking awesome.
And that's really the challenge in this like literal sea of content is discovery is what you're talking about, right? And Roger, like I'm from Chicago, Siskel and Ebert were discovery in terms of like reviews of good and bad, but they also had weird outlaw tastes. Like Roger Ebert wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, so he has a soft spot for ridiculously corny fucking Russ Meyer movies. You know what I mean? Like there's a little like underpinning. And so like he actually gave us love on Stolen Summer, the season 1 Project Greenlight movie, and everybody shat on it, but he got it. So like, you know what I mean? And that was one way. And then, I mean, this, like I'll listen to you guys, I'll listen to other podcasts or even our maestro from last week. And I'll like write it down. Like I have my little ongoing notepad movies to see thing going, and I'll always look for cool shit because we're like inundated. Like I have like 3 apps, and that's not even the most that people have. And that means I have 3 universes almost. I mean, it's limited and we can talk about how they kind of bait and switch for shit, but like it's good to have somebody else say, "Oh, you like that? Check this out." That's a human conversation, not a algorithm.
Well, so we'll add to that real time. Our last episode we did was this movie Birdies, which is like a new age sort of like Caddyshack, if you like sort of raunchy.
Oh yeah. I think I saw the I was like, oh, they're trying to do Caddyshack.
Well,
it's a good time to try it.
Someone talked about that. Another podcast that we were on talked about that. Birdies.
It's
he
around.
Had the director.
You like it?
Yeah, he had the director.
Huge fans. We've had two of the actors from the movie on. I'm friends with the producer who made the movie, and it's just out of nowhere, just a really hilarious comedy that you would,
which we need. Like, where's the indie comedies?
These movies aren't made anymore, right?
But it's so crazy. But he did okay with it. They made some money.
I have no idea. They're making a second one, so that's probably good.
That's good. Too. That's the sign.
Coming soon.
Or
that's
or,
the sign of a evolving
glutton
species.
For punishment.
A sequel. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I think for some reason it keeps popping into my head, but the Lawnmower Man. I remember going to see that in the movie theater and not knowing that it was trash until like the internet came around. And like, I was like, wow, the graphics on that. Like, I just remember being, this is a cool movie. And then
did that color
years
your
later,
VFX like fetish? Were you like, one day I will be the Lawnmower Man?
No, it had nothing to do with it. I think it all just happened to be like how movies were. Well, I look for the easiest door for me to get into making movies. And
that is a good little pitch. Our next upcoming shows are the VR double feature with not Existence, but the Virtuosity and Lawnmower Man back to back.
Yes, those are the great combo.
Yeah.
I was
the same director.
Just gonna say that. Yeah, the Australian guy, right? The music video. Is that Russell Mulcahy? For $10,000, Ryan, who's got the money?
I wish I had some sort of device around
that could tell you
the history of the world.
Yeah. Anyway, if it is, I'll buy myself a drink. Anyway.
Excuse me. All right.
So we usually start with a draft of our favorite parts of the movie, and we always have our guests go first. So, Stan, you're usually better at describing how we do the draft, so I'll let you.
Yeah, draft. It's just like a fantasy sports draft, snake draft. You can pick literally anything from the movie. There are no rules. It could be a character, it could be an actor or actress, it could be somebody's shoes, it could be like a thing you saw in the background, something that speaks to you from the movie. We'll go,
or something behind the scenes we don't even know about since you guys made this movie.
Literally anything. So have at it. You guys will go first. It'll then work our way through me and Grove Street, and then back through Grove Street, me, and then back to you guys. We'll do 2 rounds, and then we have a sleeper round, which is usually,
Do I have a buzzer? Really, is there an app I should download?
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, is it subjective to my experience of making
100% subjective? 100% subjective.
Okay, so No, probably I mean, it's hard. I'll tell you exactly what the melding.
It was also perfect.
Music and image. The melding of music and image. There was moments where it worked. I wanted the whole thing to work that way, but it didn't. But there's moments that the music and the mise en scène all meld, and it's like that's exactly what I pictured in my head. That's exactly what it's supposed to be, and it all swells at the same time, because I realized that my love of music comes from film and my love of film comes from music. So that's what I was trying to do, and it didn't always work, and sometimes it worked.
Yeah, that's a great pick, and I mean this as a compliment. I don't know how you'll take it, but this parts of this movie reminded me a lot of another movie we did on this podcast, Jennifer's Body, which I thought was a fantastic film, where it was like there were parts that felt like a music video that were like very intentional, that sort of like the music was almost like another character in the film. And it it had a role, and it played that role, and it interacted with other characters on screen. And that was like an important part. And I thought that worked fantastically in a lot of places.
Cool. Yeah, that was the intention. I mean, Miami Vice is a big, big influence on me, and I think I'm a Gen Xer, and that's like ground zero Gen X influence of MTV, of sight and sound kind of combining, and I've been, speaking of Tubi, I was just watching Miami Vice right before, like yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's a great, and then it's super corny, and then they'll like the right song with the right chase, and you're like, holy shit, that's amazing, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, 10 minutes into the Miami Vice, nothing's corny anymore. You've already bought in, right?
You're exactly. You're in the universe. And by the way, that's very the same. I think with us is that it's not reality. It's a fairy tale, and so it's heightened and stylized, and I think you get that. So it tries to take you into that.
By the way, Alex and I have talked about Miami Vice quite a bit, and I think that I think Alex, you've said that I know we've talked about this before, is that his style and choices, that was his direction from the beginning, from the television show. If we're talking about the television show, right, Alex? Like the color palette and what Miami was and what the songs were, he built that entire world. And I think that's reflective of like,
you're talking about choice. Michael Mann.
Yeah, Michael Mann. I'm talking about Michael Mann.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Mann is the man. Michael Mann is the man. So
and did he ever get maestro status, by the way?
Do you know what our maestro theory is?
No, it is.
So did we talk that on Cinema Slash? I don't know. It was, it's this thing in any art, but in cinema, because since we're cinema freaks, it's the moment when the director can do no wrong and there's no one around him to tell him that he's gone too far. He or she has gone too far. But so it's Scorsese with Irishman, it's Lucas with Phantom Menace, it's Scorsese with Killer fucking Flower Moon, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like Dylan is another one. There's no negative Bob Dylan review. You're the maestro. And ever thus.
Unflappable.
Unimpeachable. The emperor with
your own family won't even tell you.
And the yes men have finally
So it's where it's starting off the cliff a bit, because you're not getting
where you don't have in any artistic field. Whenever you do, if you're a fucking carpenter, like when you're done, you got to knock your buddy and be like, "Is that straight to you?" It's a collaborative medium. Now, I could argue in this film, well, somebody was like, and are you in it too? I'm like, well, no, I would never act in my own film. How could I possibly? But I'll do 40 other jobs, right? And as Ryan will continue to mock me about. But I also listen to my collaborators, like Ryan,
absolutely,
like the cinematographer, like every single actor. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want this to be great. I truly love this. I wrote it. It's very autobiographical. Please help me. Not, I know shit and you're going to fucking do what I want and we're going to do 40 takes. It was more like, I lay myself at your mercy. Let's do this and make it yours. Like or take ownership. I don't have money and I don't have big fucking, stuff to give you, but let's fucking do it,
But
and so
to bring it back around, I would, and this is completely off topic, but I would say I don't think the discussion was about Christopher Nolan, if Christopher Nolan has reached maestro status, because
so we were saying like, will Oppenheimer, I have to see it to know, but like, has he reached the moment of no return? And by the way, I have faith in him because his wife is his producer, like
his brother's involved.
So he can't tell her to shut up and he can't fire her. So that might be good. You know what I mean? Anyway, so
but I don't think Michael Mann reached maestro status. Anyway,
Black Hat, but we'll table that.
Oh,
later.
okay, yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good ref. That's a good ref though. My draftable, my first round pick would be. There is a moment.
Someone didn't do the reading. Someone did not do the prep.
No. I'm going to steal one because I'm going to steal your buddy, Ryan Donahue.
That guy. What's his name?
That guy. What's his name?
Ryan
Donahue as an actor
was the lead, the young lead in the film.
Yes.
Whatever his name is. What the hell did I call him?
Scott. Yeah. But yeah, Ryan Donahue actually had some really great fucking moments in that movie. And
I thought
he cared about the material. And
fuck yeah.
And I that's not saying others did not, but if I'm picking a draft, if I'm second pick, I'm taking Ryan Donahue.
I think that's such a great pick because he can slide under the radar, I think, as a viewer. But from the moment it starts with that, how did he get to the party? Oh, he was following a girl. Wait, but he's married. So he's still following the girl, but like somehow he's still likable for a long time in the movie.
That's him, man. Yeah,
like dog eyes, dog.
Yeah, he was playing kind of a scumbag.
By the way, that was scumbag straight, in being like,
by the way,
I hate my wife and my newborn.
I hate to tell a secret, but he's 57 years old.
No,
well, I didn't have my day over 56.
Yes, the adrenochrome budget on this film was astronomical. But we won't get into that.
He's a good guy, and he that
was my he delivered on a thankless job because the whole point of the movie was Rachel was the only pure person. Her friend wanted to fuck her. Jimmy wanted to fuck her. Scott wanted to fuck her. The record guy wanted to fuck her. Everyone, her mother wanted to be her. Her mother wanted to be her and suck off of her. Like the whole metaphor of the lightning was like they all wanted her power and they wanted to kind of suck her. I mean, we all know these kind of people that like they kind of feed off other people. And even Scott had to be like seemingly like the good guy in the White Knight, but not really. Not really. It's almost like what we think that archetype should be. And he's nope. And that's why he had to die at the end, because it was a film noir. He was a fallen soul like all the rest. So
that's my pick, Ryan Donahue.
That's a great pick. He also sort of felt like he was almost the pinhole into that film. Like he was sort of almost the most relatable character. Like a lot of the other characters were so extreme and were so in your face about what they were achieving in the film. Scott's character was much more like of the relatable person. Like I do things I probably shouldn't do. I have things, urges that I shouldn't have, and maybe I do them. Maybe I follow through with them. Maybe I don't. Maybe I realize they're bad choices and I try to correct them. Whereas everyone else is really just like full speed ahead into whatever that is they're doing.
Even though he was a scumbag, he had a conscience. You realize he had a conscience.
He would feel guilt. He would feel doubt. He would feel, remorse, whatever, but it didn't stop him.
Just made him take a little longer.
Yeah. It just, and that's what's interesting. Yeah. And that, by the way, people read the script and they're like, there's no likable people. I'm like, right. Like life. Let's go.
Not the 80s.
Except Rachel. Rachel gets, 20 pages to be like an angel, and then even she gets taken down, like that's the record business, baby. It's all a metaphor for the film business, like we're trying to talk about entertainment in general, how they get off the buses and come to be big stars, and they get eaten by the psychic vampires, you know?
All right, who's got the third pick?
I got third pick, and I'm kind of shocked that she made it all this far. But you know, I'm taking Rachel, and I'm taking, you know, I don't know if this is how I pronounce her name, Ali Ganino.
Yeah,
Ali Ganino.
She, I thought, couldn't have been more perfectly cast in this role. I thought she was just, when she shows up, like the transformation that character takes throughout the film and how she portrays it. Like, she has that pure innocence in the beginning of the film that's sort of very just like clean, everything about her. And as she moves, as you know, gets struck by lightning and then becomes more and more extreme and out there, and you know, there's this tension within her where it's her mother, it's her, it's all these other things, and she does all of that so well. And she's also, every minute she's on the screen, you can't take your eyes off of her. It's like she is all of that energy in every single scene. She just grabs your attention, and you can understand why all these people in the entire, like everyone in the film is just trying to get a piece of her. And as a viewer, I felt the same way. And like, I feel like she really loved movies
Right.
that like pull me in and make me feel what the characters are feeling. And she did that by her looks, by her singing, by how she portrayed the different like parts of that character. I thought she just crushed it. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, her voice was incredible. I don't know how much of it is real. You know, I don't know behind the movie stuff works, but like I then went on like YouTube and listened to a bunch of her songs, and it's like, wow, that's that same voice right there.
Yep. She did. And so each of the songs is reflecting the evolution of Rachel. And so because Ali has that sweet, pure, as you heard on her other stuff. I mean, she's a great musician. It's that more angelic sound. And so the ballad, that's sort of the hit that Jimmy's trying to sell from her, that sweet, pure, kind of poppy, middle of the road, saccharine. I mean, the band that I was playing with were like, this song sucks. I'm like, yes, like it has to be a little bit saccharine. I'm proud of it, but the story beat was to write what Jimmy thought would be a sellable way to sell her as a brand, and the song and the face and the hair and the sweet apple pie would sell, And so Ali has that. She does that. I'm not saying she's saccharine. Her stuff is more soulful. As the character descends, I needed a belter. I needed a bluesy, and I needed a different tenor to the voice. So I had to recast a few of the songs to be different singers. It just worked out that way. But she's an amazing singer. I'm really proud of. Yeah, fun fact is that's a duet with us. I'm playing Scott's singing voice.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So she's a great singer, and that was really fun to create that song with her and to be the Scott character. I mean, that's clearly the thinly veiled, like me, like, oh, Ryan Donahue, that's what I look like. No, but and then, I mean, really what it is the three characters are kind of like the 3 stages of me in my life. And I don't need to get into that, but definitely I'm glad that Ryan was able to be the eyes of the movie, or that character that kind of brings us along, almost the Nick Carraway going to the party at the Gatsby house. Like it's supposed to be that dynamic. And here comes Daisy. And there's a lot of that energy in it with a lot of style on top, but that's essentially it's the colors indicate the passivity or the activity of the character. So he's blue because he wants, because he covets, because he, is that he doesn't quite act to save her, right? Whereas Jimmy is red, like sex and money and like gimme, 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 and the green of envy and money and sort of the power of that versus the yellow of the purity of the the rose and the daisy and the whatever. So that's kind of the energy.
Well, that was going to be my pick, and I would have added this if
Nice.
It was my choice, but I'm going to take it on its own as my first pick. I thought the performance after Rachel killed the guy in the bathroom, and she had their first like real performance after she was hit by lightning, and she performed a different song, and she had the whole performance out front. That whole scene is just like, all right, here we go. Now this is the band. This is going to be after she's struck by lightning, and this is the performance she's going to give, which was such a complete opposite from like her first Shy performance. So like I think when she came out and was like, oh no, we're going to do something different, and David Arquette's like, it's an A, whatever, just put on your big boy pants, and they just crushed it, and the fans were loving it. I thought that was just like the best scene. So I'm taking that scene as my first pick.
Awesome. You remember that day, Ryan? That was a tough day. Yeah, we that was shot at a studio in Hollywood that I think had a lot of lucky energy for us because it was a legendary rock place. It's where the Stones would rehearse for a world tour.
Sting was rehearsing when we were shooting.
Next door, Sting was rehearsing his world tour on a pretend stage like us, and Owen, who plays David Arquette's Fast Fingers, he's the hand model for the on camera stuff, and also played the stuff, so he knew the licks. Who played in the band? He was the lead character, lead guitar. He stopped when we had a break. He was bullshitting with Sting, like, oh yeah, I used to, I played on this tour and whatever. Like, he had all that sort of real stuff. We tried to teach Arquette, and he could do the basic stuff, but for the fucking super licks of Owen, I mean, Owen is like a world class. Like, it was like one of my top things is like, I got to play with that guy. You know
was he the dude in the black hat in the music video?
No. So Owen's face never appears on screen. Oh, okay. The bassist was the music producer and the composer of the score, Chris Heyman, and he played the bass in the set. So we basically made a fake band, right? Or band. So I was rhythm, and like rough vocals to give the guide, because I wrote all the songs. So then Owen was lead guitar, Chris played bass, and then Ryan Donahue, who played Scott, is actually a fucking ridiculously talented drummer. So in the movie, he plays the rhythm guitar, but in real life, he's the drummer of the music that you hear. So on the Dead Like Me, like him and Owen, I'm like, holy shit, they sound like Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean? Like, I was getting chills in the studio because they were really like vibing. And so we recorded all the songs in one like lightning session as like a kind of ersatz band that we just put together for the session. And then we brought in different women singers later to sing to my, just like, this is where you should sing, like rough track. So
cool. My first pick of the second round, Snake Draft, is, I don't know who gets credit, whether it be Ryan or your directorial style, Alex, but I just love that like behind the music quasi documentary approach of like taking like social media type video footage and mixing it in with the actual like pristine footage of the movie, and I just love the two together. So
sweet. Ryan, you want to tell the story of the story?
Nope. That would not be in my draft. Let's just put it that way.
Well, no. Well, thank you. The purpose of that was, the movie is dripping with beauty, right? Like, it's glamorized. It's like the lenses and the colors, and we were purposely really trying to make it look, idealized, right? So that the social stuff and the other mixed media could look rougher and rougher and such. Originally, I'll do the truncated version. The original script was, the whole movie was the last thing that you see before you are sucked up into an energy vortex that basically swaps your soul with a dead person. So you go to the afterlife and they take your body. And this would take place in Red Rocks, outside Denver. And that was where the concert was supposed to be. So that when Rachel got struck by lightning, she actually opened up like a rift between the afterlife where Rachel and her mom crossed, so that we all could do it. And that the film is really just like sort of a propaganda video from the religion that worships Rachel. And then you're coming to this sort of Mecca to give up your soul and let someone else come and take your body.
This might sound completely bananas, but and it
works
does
on the
verbally,
page.
but when you read the original script, the way it was written, we're getting a bit off track. We can come back to this, and we should. The way, and this is what you have to deal with as a filmmaker or as a group of filmmakers or people making a movie, is that what is written sometimes just cannot, for whatever reason, make it on the screen, and then just cannot make it in the edit. And the bigger story of this story was really, really fascinating and a really cool. I don't want to. It's not time travel. Look, I don't want to interrupt the draft too much, but it's so, there was so many messages that had to get out, and I have to say, Alex, after we talked about Phantom of the Starlight.
Phantom of the
Paradise. Phantom of the Paradise.
Phantom of the Paradise. Do you guys, speaking of like really obscure nerd films, check out Phantom of the Paradise. It's one of our things on our show we call a B-side. So it's Brian De Palma doing High Voltage, like very much in that realm.
And I had not seen it since our guest brought it on, and I have to say that there's the quality that I think Alex is trying to convey, and the image that keeps popping up into my head is that poster of like a cherry from like the 80s, where the cherry just is like glistening. There's like something about the cherry that just looks like it's almost like candy. And I think that's what the look of that Cameron Duncan and Alex were trying to come up with. And it's hard to do on a budget, but like that glossiness.
But I think he pulled it off.
Well, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And part of that was to use, so we had anamorphic lenses. I don't know if you got how nerdy you are about like the making of movies, but like anamorphic looks like movies to me. It gives it an innate beauty and otherworldliness where it looks like our world, but just better. Like everything just looks cooler. So John Carpenter shoots exclusively in anamorphic lenses. So when you think like those lens flares that don't go like this, they go right? Or like I learned a term from our director of photography, Cameron Duncan, bokeh. When you see so like pretend I'm standing on the Heat balcony where De Niro is going to kiss the girl, right? So if it's a close-up and it's a long lens, then my face is really in focus and the city lights are just sort of these like birthday candles, like shimmering, right? So those birthday candles are called bokeh. A word bokeh. And so when it's anamorphic, when it's spherical, it's a sphere, it's a circle. When it's anamorphic, it's an oval. Okay. If you ever see a movie, just look for the oval and you're like, oh, it's anamorphic. And so Heat is anamorphic and Jaws is anamorphic and Close Encounters is anamorphic. And like the 70s, every fun movie that you love, Raiders is anamorphic. In the 70s and 80s, I'm telling you, go anamorphic movies and you go, oh, those are all my favorite movies. Oh shit, I never knew this. Okay. And so I wanted the beauty part to be anamorphic. And they all gave me shit because it's expensive and hard to do. And the lenses are heavy. But like, I'm like, I want the Heat package because Heat is, and our longest lens weighed like 30 pounds and it was like longer than your arm. And it was like, don't drop that. We needed to get $1 million policy for the lens package. Let me put it that way. Okay. This was the Technicolor. And it was only because Cameron Duncan worked at Technicolor for like 10 years. Panavision for 10 years and knew everybody. And it was like, I'm making this movie. Like, cause he had taken ownership. Like, this guy wants to make a beautiful movie where the women are idealized and stunning, like the 30s, and the men look cool and the colors are cool, and he wants to stylize things. Yeah, I'm going to play that favor and get the heat package.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like that's a great detail, because I think, especially for movie fans like Grobe and like me, we are not the sophisticated. We do not have the background of the details of all these things. We're not film nerds. We're sort of movie fans. So
yes,
all the details that go into this, it helps people like us to understand and get what's going on in the movie without even having to think about it. Right? We see this, we experience it, and it informs how the movie works for people like us who are just visually experiencing the film, not knowing of the details that go into it or what is going on.
Yeah, and that's what we love, because we still have that, but now we can then go, oh, like, nice shot, or oh, pretty lighting, or whatever. It's more like intuitive to you. But when you start just judging the craftsmanship, that means the story's not engaging you. That's what happens. Even if you learn more, sometimes you forget. You're like, that was awesome. And then you go back and you're like, let's just watch it for the editing or the technique.
Well, now I have to go back and watch all those awesome movies I love, like Jaws and Raiders, and look at that.
Yeah, man. It's the glass, like that's the hipster term, is you have good glass, and we had anamorphic glass. And what's amazing is when you get good glass, there's a history. So you can look it up in the archive of Panavision, like, oh, the photons pass through the same lens for our shitty indie film that this goddamn classic did. And it kind of gives you chills, like you're sharing in the brotherhood and sisterhood of like the cinema, and those old houses stay around, even with whatever. Now they rent you digital, whatever, but the glass, that's what doesn't, we shot on an Alexa. I wanted it to look like film, and anamorphic looks like film. But anyway, so to wrap it up, the different formats were supposed to indicate that I'm terrible. What was the drummer character, Eric? So Eric, the actor, I forget the
Zach
guy. Zach. So Zach was supposed to be the survivor of the accident, and he's the narrator of the film. So he comes out kind of like Walt Disney used to introduce, like the Walt Disney World show. He'll come out on a set, and half his face will be burned, and he'll have like a robot eye, and he'll be like 30 years older, and he'll be like, I want to tell you a story. And we've rebuilt this story like you'd see in a museum. And we've rebuilt this from archival footage that survived the accident and changed our world. And I've tried to, inform through the footage and what I remember to tell the real story. But the thing is that that's not the real story. Zach is the fucking L. Ron Hubbard of it all. And he's turned his whole shtick into being the last survivor that knew Jesus and the apostles. So he's got a story to tell. And this fucking theme park that you come to is him making money and controlling this whole fucking thing. All right? Because he's the last survivor.
We couldn't afford the theme park.
Yeah. So anyway, Eric we were going to make him up all fucking mangled future version guy doing a talking head, which is not dissimilar to what Daisy and the Six, the Amazon show, did, which is a doc about a past band, and they have their older versions like reminiscing. We're going to do some of that, where maybe, whoever else survived, like the daughter would have her day in court, but she would be like old and like gray and smoking cigarettes. And that would like space cigarettes or whatever from the future. And that would be, the Citizen Kane of it all, where you have Susan Kane in the restaurant, like kind of burned out and all fucked up and wrinkled and drunk, and be like, I remember that day. And then you go back to her pretty and young and why he fell in love with her. It was going to steal that way, but instead of just who's Citizen Kane, what's the story, let's make a doc, boys, it was supposed to be like a propaganda video about this religion that this guy's hustling, which is like Rachel is the new like fucking Jesus because she's got this like lightning power shit. So it had other things on its mind. What we had to shed away was the big Kubrickian idea, and what we were left with was the film within the film, right? So this is what that is.
Okay, good luck. Your pick, man.
Mixed format, all that from mixed formats.
Yeah, and that's why the mixed formats, because what we were going to do is shoot the scene of the party really rough in video where no one had makeup and their hair was fucked up, and then redo the scene in the film, because the film look was supposed to be future virtual reality that would map their faces and animate. It was all supposed to be animated. It was fake. All the beautiful stuff was fake. It's supposed to be like future cool, perfect CGI recreation shit. So
I don't even know how to follow that up. My second pick here.
Streams of consciousness.
I was going to go with the colors. I feel like we've touched on that a lot, but I just love the use of the different colors. It gave this sort of like dreaminess to a lot of the scenes, and also just reinforced what you were sort of going through at that point in the film, which I just loved as a viewer. But I'm not going to go there because we've already done it. Instead, I'm going to go with the opening intro scene, the sort of flash forward that we get with Rachel in the bathroom where you see the first kiss happen. And I loved it for a couple of reasons. I think I've talked about it a number of times in the show where I love when movies just put you right into the feeling of the film, and just there's no slow lead in. Oh, here's the background of this person. Here's this. They just dive right in and hit you with it. And you get that. You get a little punch of this, like, just craziness and insanity that is where you're headed. And you don't really understand it. You don't get what's going on, but you get a taste of it. And it's sort of that taste that you're then chasing for a while in the rest of the film till you end up getting back to that same place. And also it just had this really wild energy to it. It was almost like the opening of like a Bond movie with the music and the incredible, like almost over stylized effects of it. And this beautiful woman and this sort of mysterious guy in this strange place. It had an unbelievable aura to the whole thing. So I just loved everything about it. And I love that we got to do it twice.
Yeah,
you hear that, Ryan? Aura. You hear that, Ryan?
Aura.
That scene reminded me of when we did Snake Eyes and we got De Palma, and it was like every scene had like you got two or three other perspectives of the same scene later on. So we saw that in the beginning, and then we saw how it happened from the beginning, sort of. And it was nice to come back to that.
That's a good, so that's a good B-side for him as well. Probably better than, you'll see Phantom of the, what is it? Phantom of the thing?
Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah,
Phantom of the Paradise. It's so fucking weird. You'll be like, holy shit. Like, but Snake Eyes is genuinely like a great movie.
Snake Eyes.
Plus you got Cage and Sinise. I mean, that's just a badass movie.
Yeah, we've
it's
done
a good rewatcher too.
We've done Snake Eyes. We've done Femme Fatale. There's a handful of other films that qualify here, too. But those movies kick ass.
And there's a lot of. I mean, I'll do my 2 cents on it. Was Luke Wilson was nice enough to come in and play. I thought a really great sleazy record executive, and when we were going to kill him, he came in the room, and you know how green it is, and it's so like in your face, which was pretty much a nod to Vertigo, because of the green, that same shade of green in that scene that's almost ripped off from like a frame of Vertigo. But a lot of the film is De Palma, the colors and the beautiful women and the sort of sexuality of it all. So he walks into the set, like the lit set, and he goes, "Hi, you're doing like a De Palma thing." So he got the like style of it all. But yeah, I mean, very De Palma energy from this movie. A lot of David Lynch, sort of when he does his more beautiful. I think Lynch is actually an anamorphic guy, and the Blue Velvets of it all, that era of him. Wild at Heart. There's a lot of Wild at Heart in here. I pulled frames from that to show. the DP and stuff. So, yeah. Right, Ryan?
My draft. Is it my draft pick now?
Yeah,
It is. Yep.
I'm gonna go with Perry Reeves because she's
Nice.
super. She's a super nice lady, and she did us a really big favor, and she's committed to the movie, and she did a really good job. So I'm going with Perry Reeves. I would go second if I had no one's going to pick him, so I'm going to take him anyway. I'd also give a shout out to Steve Giatakis for doing the radio voice. He was a KCRW DJ guy who did us a favor that
yes.
And
any LA
too.
people, Steve Giatakis.
I don't know.
Yeah, he helped us out. That's a good one.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you're friends with him, but I don't know if he's even on KCRW anymore. But I haven't listened to KCRW in a long time. Yes. I'll go Perry Reeves.
I thought
nice.
Perry Reeves is incredible, and I think she's I don't know if it's just my generation or whatever, but we're all the same. I just know her as like Ari's wife.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And this is Ari. She never had a name until like the last couple episodes or something. Like I think it was Lisa or something.
But and she also old school.
Yeah, old school.
She was.
Exactly.
She was. What's his?
He's working on his car.
Frank the Tank's wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
She always like crushed every scene she was in both those movies, and you're just like, where did she come from? She just got like
she stole her scenes. Yes.
Yeah, she was super solid.
Good people. And I mean, we were very, very lucky to get the cast we did. I mean, obviously Ali and Ryan we've discussed, but Luke and David and Perry and everybody else, why we got them is because they were getting to do something slightly out of their comfort zone. I mean, Perry was always playing like kind of a character like Rachel, maybe a little bit older, kind of sexualized and whatever. So it was good to let her be a mom. She doesn't really play a lot of moms. And with Luke Wilson, it was he'd never been killed on screen, which was he was into, and he had never really played as truly like scumbag like that, and had a lot of fun with it.
It was fun seeing him in that role, but he crushed. I mean, you're like, can he be the sleazy guy? And he crushed that.
Yeah, made me want to see more of that from him, and it was like a great off of type role. It was amazing
when he was like I know you're a singer and an artist, whatever, but you're so hot, and I'm thinking about fucking. It was just like, all right, this is so sleazy.
And by the way, that was his improv.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's perfect. Like, let's try this. And we were both, and me and Allie were like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And then she was trying to top him by being a little bit sleazier too. And so it was a lot of fun. They got what the vibe was.
All right. So I think you're up for your final regular round.
I'm up then. Yeah, it's definitely got to be David Arquette.
I can't believe it took so long for him to get
wild that he lasted so long.
That's an easy one. I mean, obviously he's an icon for, I think, all of us, and he's fucking David Arquette. And so like we were lucky enough to meet him through one of our producers, Evan Ostrowski, who's he's been on our show. He's a couple times, and he's a great producer. He did Cabin Fever, and he did Fanboys, and he's done a lot of cool shit. And so the genesis of this movie was Project Greenlight came back in 16 or 15, something like that. And I didn't know about it. And I got a call, and they said, it's coming back, baby. And I said, what do you need from me? And they're like, your address for sending the check. And so I got like a year's runway from just fucking falling out of the sky, because we were canceled like 10 years before. And so, and thank God to all the people that did that. But it gave me pause. Like, okay, I can just keep doing what I'm doing, writing scripts, pitching stuff, pitching shows, and just keep doing it for another year. Or I can take a swing. And so the swing was, it's not enough to make a movie, but it's enough. It's a year's time for me to get the money to make the movie. And so that year was becoming Al Pacino in Glengarry Glen Ross, right? Tony Roma, Tony something. Ricky Roma. I had to become Ricky Roma to try to sell an independent film to high net worth individuals, which is how most independent films get made. And we won't get into all that shtick, but just to say that it was a year. I gave myself a year and we made it by like inches. And part of the reason that the film had to change was because the raise that I was able to do would not allow for the big spiel. So the producers kept trying to rebudget Ryan, everybody's, and they're just like, we just can't make it work. So we raised money, not enough for the big idea, but how about for the small idea? And we made a movie and we got distribution in the end. But it all started because we had a great idea, and I call Evan and I say, I want to make an independent film. And he goes, no, and he hangs up. And then I called him back and I said, did you hear what I said? He's like, I did. Do you still want to make an independent film? You're fucking middle-aged with 2 kids. What the fuck are you talking about? And I said, yes. And he's like, all right, well, you passed the first test.
He actually called me sometime, I think, in between those first 2 calls. He's like, our stupid good friend Alex wants to make a movie. Can you tell him to shut the fuck up and do something else? And I was like, he wants to make a movie. He's like, don't get started.
What kind of movie?
Yeah, what kind of movie?
And so it originally
sci-fi horror? Sign me up.
No.
Not the whole till the end, right?
No. It was this story, but just an indie drama. No genre. No Kubrickian.
So this is how producers influence movies.
And because a hammer only sees nails, Evan's like, make it a horror movie.
Yeah. Where are we in the draft?
I'm talking about Arquette.
Okay.
And the reason I bring Evan up is because Evan was the conduit to Arquette.
Yeah.
He said, fine, I'll be executive producer. You're going to give me this much money when you get paid. And here we go. And so he was very much like my fucking sensei through the whole thing. Cause I didn't know shit. I'd be like, now what? He's like, now you wait. Now you call this guy. Now you hire a lawyer, whatever. And he said, you need a movie star. You need talent. And he had done a movie with Arquette and texted him and was like, hey, I got a cool indie weird thing you might dig. And he read it and he's like, I love it. And he loved the weird Kubrickian horror-y fucking, word salad version. And
by the way, great guy. Like
just
solid
mensch.
Like just, and I'm not just saying that, like he's just a guy that comes from a really talented family
who's done like 70 films.
And if you've watched any of his like goofy films that he like 8-Legged Freaks or anything like that, like you just know this guy shows up, brings Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then just by the way, we'll bring you fucking Kentucky Fried Chicken. And then
he brought donuts one day, he brought KFC one day. Yeah, he was just that guy. And he would like pick up apple boxes and we got a quick switch the light.
Knew his lines.
As a guy who doesn't know anything, he seems like the guy who would bring like KFC to the set. So it's funny to hear.
Yeah, you might say that.
What it teaches
not
you
Luke
is,
Wilson wouldn't. Luke Wilson wouldn't, but Luke Wilson showed up and fucking knew his lines, like killed it. The day that Luke Wilson
showed up, 15 page off book means your lines without the sheet in front.
That guy came in and slayed.
He had 15
they owed us
off
nothing.
Book.
They owed us nothing, and they both came in and slayed.
I feel like I almost took Luke Wilson as a draft pick because he's so good, but he's just in so.
You want to see, like, if we could have gotten him to be in the movie for like if we had him for like another 2 or 3 days,
guys, we had him one day. That was one day, all in one day. He did 15 pages of dialogue, and
this is where
cut it into each reel.
This is where Stan's team around the other side, where we're like, we still think movies are made chronologically.
Yeah, we're dumb like that. It's always blows our minds. Like, what?
Yeah.
Think about but fellas, like here's something that blows your mind. When they shoot series now, because it's such a cost saver, they literally will go to one location. It's called block shooting, and they will shoot out a location for the entire season. like, so if that scene is in,
and they swap out like, oh, you're the murderer this week. Go sit over there. Oh, you need the blue tie. Like, like you're in the court like thing for like 6 weeks, just the court scenes for the law show or whatever, right?
So they have to keep track of all. I mean, it's
and the actors
crazy.
have to be like, wait, my wife died because from this guy killed him, and I want to jump over the thing.
We did Annabelle, and that was one of the first movies we realized that was shot like chronologically by the actors and everyone. Like they made it all the way through, so that way by the end they're like, yeah, we've gone through all of this. We get where we are.
Yeah, and
some are. Some are.
There are directors who believe in that, and if money is no object, and time is no object, which is not really faithful to the way movies are made.
Neither of those ever occur ever.
No.
Yeah.
Then it actually, you see, I think if you were to take the same movie and make it chronologically and make it how budgetarily it would work the best, I wouldn't be surprised if what you got chronologically in thrillers, high-level dramas, certain genres, I think you would see that there would be quite a difference. I think you would see a performance difference. But then again, that's not giving the actors enough credit, because that's why they do their job. They should be able to just turn it on. They can just set off whenever they want.
Like,
what's my motivation? What's my motivation?
And that's why my education was, I was a little wary of actors as a first-time director. I didn't quite get them, whatever. What you find out, and Arquette taught me this, is that they're filmmakers too. Okay, so, and the more experienced they are, and I'm first-time director, and he's 68 films at that point, or 65.
Not only that, but coming from an acting family, from like he's been around the camera forever.
His grandfather was an actor, like for on and on. So
performers, they're performers.
Yep, they're like vaudevillians were his family, right? So like he was like another film school. And he just taught me like every actor is really just a collaborator filmmaker. They're not cattle, as somebody said, or chess pieces, as somebody else said,
or giant egos floating around.
Filmmakers. Why? Because they know what lens you're using and how big to make their little faces for. Like, what do you mean? You know, like, am I doing a theater back of the road?
Is that an assumption amongst like Hollywood direct, like that they're cattle, or that they can?
Hitchcock once famously said, "They're just cattle. They do what I say. I put them where they want. Like, the movies are mine. They're my."
He had smart cattle, though. Hitchcock was known for a breed of smart cattle.
That's a dick thing to say. There, you know, TM, all rights reserved. Like, that's a fucking dick thing to say.
The ghost is coming out.
Yeah. And which sucks, because
he's in his own movies, which you would never do.
I fucking stole the shade of green, the emerald shade of green is stolen. Go watch Vertigo. You'll be like, oh, these fucking guys. You know, that whole, and the like obsessional and the blonde and there's plenty of Hitchcock all over this movie. Not to be gross, but like, meaning like you take the good and you leave the bad, but they ain't cattle. And Arquette is actually a filmmaker. He's directed, he's produced, he's written. He was in a band
on stage.
He was in a band. He's done plays. I can do it all. Has done it all. So, you know, Jimmy was sort of my like devil character in my own head. So I can write Jimmy dialogue all day, really good bullshitty stuff, and I would hand it to him, and he would kind of read it and go, or I could just nod, and then I'd read it back, and we'd have the sides on the set, and they'd go, yeah, what you said. And then we'd save, half a day. And it went on and on, right? So he would like just know globally. That's what I mean about filmmaker, the experience, and Luke too. I mean, all the Perry, like experienced actors, they've seen enough of the process to be like, okay, if the camera's over there, this is my good side. If the light's there, I know to pivot like a half turn to, you know what I mean? They're thinking what the editor's going to see later. And they're thinking, when the editor sees it, if he's happy with my angle, he's going to leave it on me and he's not going to cut to their close up. There's a lot of like that going on, but also just what's best for the movie first and foremost. What's going to get our day? What's going to get that? And then there's a little bit of like, yeah, I'm going to blow them away in my close up and they're going to just use his reaction shot or an over the shoulder. Do you know what I mean? So they know where they fit in the giant puzzle of a film, you know? And Arquette was that. And most importantly, as we said, he's a mensch. By committing, he made us real. Every actor we went to was like intriguing. First time director, pass, because you get stung. And it's like there's a blanket policy. And I said that to him and he said, yes, I've had a couple of those, but I just dig the vibe. Like, look at how excited you are, man. This is a fucking ride of your life. I want to be a part of that. I want to feed off that. I want to get into that. I want to like mess it up with you. And you're doing this weird experimental, like mind fuck movie. Like that's my shit. You know, I can't do that in Scream 5. I can do that here.
So Dewey, he probably doesn't have as much range.
No way. And he got all the fucking laugh lines and he got and he made it funnier. All his improvs are in the movie. He made it better. He got it.
Yeah.
And it taught me.
He easily could have been the first pick in this movie.
Easily. And we did
narrate the whole thing too, right? So like,
but that was after because I love him because that was a good fix. That was one of many like, okay, get the plaster out, we gotta patch some fucking holes. We got get the Bondo. We got to sell this car. And so like the opening that you loved, that was a fix by Ryan. What's the editor's name? That guy. We had two editors.
Michael.
We brought in this rock star that Ryan knew who looked at the film and was like, because when the Kubrick thing fell away, we said, okay, we can still do some docu stuff. So we opened on that picture of her getting struck by lightning at the end. That was the bookend element kind of. And the studio and many people were just like, it starts too quiet. Like you're starting out with like a black and white picture and a VO that says like, you know, on September 27th, this band fucking got struck by lightning. Here's their story kind of. It mostly worked, but it has shit beginning. And so this editor came in and he said, watch The Hunger. Another one to put on your list. Tony Scott. Somebody better bring this on our fucking show. Tony Scott, who I love, shoots anamorphic, makes women look beautiful. He's my guy. Like he's my style guy. And his first feature was called The Hunger. Here's where it wins. Vampire movie, David Bowie, Catherine Deneuve, style for days, like 1981. Awesome. And so it begins with this weird music video, fucking just go onto YouTube and do The Hunger opening, and you'll see it all.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
Very stylistically informative of not only the beginning but the film in general.
Yeah, I forgot
this
Glenn.
film.
I forgot Glenn Garland came in and edited.
Glenn Garland
did Devil's Rejects.
And so Glenn said, and that was a reshoot. The sexy green Bond girl, that was a latter stage reshoot to try to make the beginning of the movie thank God you said exactly what I wanted, which is, and this was Glenn's idea, get them interested, get them engaged, but kind of confused.
Oh, yeah.
And then so they'll be like, well, how does it all fit together? You know? And that's what we came up with.
Netflix right now, this is not, you know, they didn't release this, but it's apparently been said that Netflix gives the time that they give you to establish a viewer or to trap the viewer so they don't switch off of whatever you're watching is now 16 seconds.
That's wild.
And by the way, same ethic here, because we were coming along with a horror, low budget horror distribution apparatus. So of course they're like, give us some kills way up front.
Which is why I had to start with them.
Grab them. And in my screenwriting, That's always been a thing. Like first 10 pages, you got to fucking blow their doors off, and then you settle into the story.
I always get
Raiders.
My wife isn't a great movie watcher. She's gotten a lot better, but I'm just like, can you not be on your phone for like the first 5 minutes? First 5 minutes,
yes.
Just because if you're not paying attention to the first 5 or 10, I know what you're gonna say. In a half hour, you're gonna be lost, or this is dumb. But it won't be if you just watch the first 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes, the investment moment. Yes,
exactly.
And it's super important. And Glenn saved the day, but I forget how we got on this part of it. But yes, Arquette is 100%. He legitimized us. He got Luke. He got, you know what I mean? He got Perry. He got distribution. I mean, he got the money. Like, he's the man.
Yeah, he's like you getting Emile Hirsch for Freaks, right?
He was the money guy, dude. That's why my little stupid fucking hookup was crucial.
Yeah.
Snake. Are we back at the snake draft?
Yeah, it is Alex's pick for Sleeper.
Okay, I'm going to go with Alex Keledjian, and I'm going to go with the rest of the crew, and I'll tell you why. I'll make it really quick.
I'm not splitting it with the rest of the crew. That's 2 turns.
If anyone listens to the show or knows Alex and I think we talked about this before we came on air, I am not a fan of this movie. I thought that this was going to go a completely different direction, but in response to playing fair and being nice, I played as best as I can. But I got to say something.
Yes.
Alex and I have been friends for a long time, and we fight like brothers, and it's one of my only real dysfunctional and toxic relationships I can't rid myself of, and I say that in a very loving way. And if anyone listens to our show, they'd realize that. But I met Alex in the early 2000s, and I had a great career as a visual effects artist. It was
an Emmy winning.
It was everything that I ever thought it could be. I was never at the pinnacle, but I certainly made some waves very early on. That all being said, as I got older, and there's not as many older people in the business of visual effects, especially ones like with attitudes like mine and the ability to insult people.
Is that because it grinds you down? Like, do they fall away? Is that why there's not a lot of old guys?
I can't speak to other people's experiences.
But you're right. It's hard.
People can and do lose money. That's all I'll say. I saw something in 2015-16 that made me think that my time in the visual effects world was probably coming to an end, whether it be by technology or my mouth or a combination of both. I wasn't going to survive and make the kind of money that I had been making for the better part of a decade. And I wanted to wake up in the morning and go learn how to shoot movies. I knew everything about the editing process, everything about the post-production process. I knew a little bit about writing, but I didn't know anything about making movies. I'd been on music video sets. I'd worked with Madonna, Prince, huge names my whole career. I was very, very lucky. And it didn't mean I had them on speed dial, but I had a lucky career, very lucky. But I knew it was coming to an end. And, with the advent of things that we're talking about today that are very prevalent, it is going to come to an end. There will be machines that can do a lot of things that don't need anybody, a lot of people for, and industries will fall. And Alex, and even though, frankly, there was money involved, allowed me to help him produce this movie. And it was my first step into what has become, even with COVID, it's been quite successful. And I'm very happy and proud about that. It's hard to do. It's a hard life. But doing what I do now compared to what I did, I'm just a lot happier person. And I think Alex and the rest of the crew, Dwan Fox being one of those people.
Evan Ostrowski is
Evan, absolutely fucking hateful dick that he is. And he'll appreciate that. I really, we're not big time. We like making movies. It's enjoyable. you know, we like talking to people, so we love that too. But I'll say Alex Keledjian because I couldn't have done it otherwise. And although there was no reason other than we were friends, and he thinks highly of me, even though I'm a fucking dick to him. So
no, I would say that was the reason you were there. But I knew that you're an incredible filmmaker. You just hadn't had the chance to go. Guys, he's bearing the lead. He just said, "Get me off the box. I can't. I'll die in this bag."
It's hard. It's hard to like. As hard as I thought it would be to get up at 2 a.m. and go to set at 4 a.m. and command, be in charge of 300 people at a time or 100 people at a time or whatever. It's so much more of a joy to talk and meet with those people instead of spending your life as a single solitary person in a room by yourself for 16 hours staring
in the glow of the monitors. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it changed my life. And, I'll tell people out there, and this is what I'll really say. I went from making a really, really good living to the next year making $13,000 for the whole year. It was tough. And 20 of those $13,000 I gave Alex. So
that's right. No, and you know what else he did is he, and this is, thank you for saying that. It's a very nice thing. But let me show that here's the Rashomon of that, which is this film, as a friend of mine once put it, is a $385,000 movie that's really like a $5 million movie with favors. And I gave you an earlier example of that, which was the anamorphic glass. If they charged us retail, we're not shooting anamorphic. It's just not even a conversation. That was the bro rate. That was one of thousands.
All the financials are left off of Wikipedia and Rotten Tomatoes.
No, by the way, because it looks great, the distributor claimed it was $5 million movie, and that's kind of a
there's a lot of reasons why they do that.
Yeah,
they're varied. They're varied. They're varied, but independent film, especially,
there's an inflation. There's a little sex appeal. Like mine's bigger than yours.
It's a colander, so to speak.
If you're under $100,000. Then you celebrate that, and you go. Even if it was 101, you say you made it for $14 and a pack of gum. So that's the anti-bragging Kevin Smith. You don't see that as much anymore, but every once in a while, this is a $7,000 movie, man. Whatever.
I don't know if you guys have seen Whoa, but Whoa was a movie that we
did.
That
was the biography of Joey Lawrence, right?
Whoa, that was a good one. But Whoa was that was a movie that was shot for $75,000. But even that, it's so impossible. You're asking people for so many favors and so many things.
No, but of course, but just in terms of the macro, the bragging rights are either you made it for nothing or you made a real movie with a lot of money. Right. So that, especially in genre, they're like, no, this isn't an $85,000 movie. When you buy in Turkey and Benelux and the Sahara, they want to know they're buying a very big Hollywood movie. Bang bang, All
right, we got to keep moving. I'm taking control of the show. Roll. Next,
hit it,
Steamer.
This is like a super deep cut.
Don't take mine.
There's no way this is yours, and I'm just gonna walk out of here.
Is it how the whole cast? Is it how the whole cast got Hep C? That was that wasn't a true story.
That was Ryan's caterer that he picked. No,
mine is just and this Grobe and I, it was a combination of COVID and us having very small children at home now. We do a fair amount of just drinking at home. And Barb, in the scene where she's drinking during the day, I don't know what time it is, lunchtime, noon, early on.
No, it's morning.
It's morning.
The girls in their jammies.
It's literally breakfast.
It's breakfast.
It's 11 a.m. or something.
Herself, she has the big thing of vodka, but she went the extra step of cutting the lemon wedge and putting it on her glass. And I just love that extra step. You're making your own cocktail. It's 9 a.m. But I just love that she went that extra mile to put the lemon on her glass.
She's not in.
Do it up.
Yeah, and also, citrus in the morning is nice.
It's good for you.
You know what I'm
Very
saying?
nice.
Well, vitamin C never hurt anybody.
Oh my God!
Thank God it
that's
wasn't
so
the Hep
funny.
C. It was the vitamin C, not the Hep C.
Yeah.
Bobby,
That is awesome.
Better C to get in your system.
Well, special thanks. I'll tell you a story about that. So that comes under the purview or the department or the key in a crew called production design. What you see on this,
just do the name. We're running out of time. You got to just do the name.
And so here's the name of our production designer, redacted, because halfway through our shoot, he went missing and was found naked in his apartment, high on crack, thinking he was seeing spiders.
It was a great day. The things you have to deal with.
So the answer is that a lot of hardworking people left in his department, banded together, and fucking pulled it off. So that's what you do when you have no money, no time, and you're just going. There's no choice. We're not stopping down. We'll figure it out. And they did a fucking bang up job. But is it my turn?
It's Bobby's.
Answer?
Yeah,
go, Bobby.
We'll come back to at the end. I get mine out here. My sleeper pick. This is this would also be the thing from the movie that I wish I could have, and it is.
Yes, that's a good one.
It's David Arquette's throne, his chair.
That white chair is
awesome. Incredible. But there's pros and cons because sometimes he's not feeling great about himself, and he gets he sinks really deep.
Yes,
we read that. Was that rented?
That was the whole idea.
It's like
that was the whole idea.
Below the length of the arm.
It came with the house. We lucked out.
Hey, by the way, gentlemen, just a little, for your fans who listen to the show, but if they are also fans of, let's say, adult entertainment, that house is featured in many, many, many adult films out there, and you'll notice the double doors and the entrance is used quite. There's a series that's out there that uses it a lot.
We're very proud. We had a whole Spider-Man sequence because your shoes stick to everything, but we had to cut it.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was entirely in the house. But I will say this. If it wasn't in the house, we were going to rent one. Here's for the oldsters out there. There was once a thing called a magazine, and in it was a thing called an advertisement. And in that advertisement, it was, I believe it was Memorex, and there was tapes.
That was on paper?
Yes,
it was printed on paper. Yeah,
and so I'm gonna model it. There's a guy sitting in a chair listening to music.
His tie is
it was that guy. Jimmy was supposed to be that guy.
Phenomenal. I know that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That image, that iconography.
Gauge his mood based on where he was in the throne.
And then it was supposed to be like a king. Like a kind of rock and roll king.
That's a good pickup, actually. That was discussed on set of where he would be sitting. So that's a good pickup.
And what's great about Arquette is he can schlump with the best of them.
He schlumps so low.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about his performance is that Jimmy thinks he's cooler than he is. And so there's a thread of pathetic in it that if you're really a dirtbag, you want to be Jimmy. But if you look really hard at Jimmy, Jimmy's kind of a sad guy, And so David managed to do that. And by the way, be the shittiest shit, but you still love him. That improv at the end when he's like, come on, she's a murderer and what the fuck? And he's like, whatever, let's go be famous.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to like someone when they're just obvious, when they're see-through. It's very clear. Jimmy's not hiding who he is, right? It's very obvious. So once you know,
and he's also doing whatever he wants, which is why we always love the bad guy.
I always felt. Yeah, I'm sorry sorry, Alex.
No, that was it. Lightning.
I always thought that one of the reasons why he did it was he saw a little bit of himself in Jimmy. Because that's always really good actors end up late in their career just being themselves. They just show up and they're just like Harvey Keitel is this guy. He's always been Harvey Keitel, but in the end, when he shows up to do a film, he's Harvey Keitel. He's not the character. He's Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel.
All right. Superlative, real quick, is your favorite kiss in the movie?
Mine. I was the dead body in the car.
About that.
So you were in your own movie. Nice.
Exactly. But like who? Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Where I'm not in the movie.
Right. Oh, that's
but
a great
I'm
one.
like a little
really
like
he's a
cameo.
bloated corpse.
Bloated corpse cameo. And what was funny, speaking of our friend here, Ryan, like it was clearly me and I looked pretty good in my tux. And then I come back the next day and he's like, yeah, okay, done. And I'm like, where am I? Like, well, you're fucking burned to death,
Charged
dude.
with
Like,
crisp.
Wait,
this is not your big moment.
You were the wedding body?
I was the Armenian wedding body
Yeah.
because, it was a little shout out.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was the last shot of the movie.
Tough to beat.
Yeah, that was the last shot we shot. Yep, I remember that.
And we all went to a bar somewhere near there.
Cried ourselves to sleep.
That was it.
Who's next?
You are.
Yeah.
So this is a favorite kiss.
Yep. If you like his, you can keep it, I guess.
No. Favorite kiss would be the asses that had to be kissed to get this film distributed. Those are my favorite kisses. If you guys know how much puckering had to happen to get this thing out there, the 1% of the one. Look, man, we could, Slaughterhouse. You guys mentioned that in the very beginning, and I can't tell you how much I love what that is. But like anything in this world, not every movie makes it out there. And I'm not saying that this movie's not, but I'm just saying like it is hard to get a fucking movie out there. And so just saying like there was a lot.
So what's the lesson? The lesson is when you finally make your own movie, you never ever criticize a movie again.
It's hard to talk shit about Lawnmower Man when you've made Lawnmower.
I think that's partly like we never made like what is it? Smart men learn from their own mistakes. Wise men learn from the mistakes of others.
Ooh, that's a good one.
We've never made a movie, but I know we can't, and we know it's really hard. So, like when we see these movies and people are ready to pick them apart, we're like, I think you're missing a lot of the things that they overcame in the process. So I think that sort of like goes to the vibe of our podcast. Is like respecting the process of having
you're definitely
it and everything else.
But you're also doing that thing that, I mean, look, by the way, this is, I would have paid you guys to say some of the nice things you said tonight.
Yeah, yes, we would have.
And I'm so happy that you got it, and so I think
we don't know. Whoa. We don't know what they've recorded yet. So
did we hit record?
No, but I mean, from what you've said, at least you kind of. Here's the main thing: when I say "got it," I don't mean you love the movie.
You've said things. They've said things that make us understand that they understood what we were trying to do.
Well, let me say this: you got what we were going for. We may not have always.
Why are they not moving?
Because they're like, yeah. I think their review is going to be like, there's flashes of greatness, but it's flawed, and here's how. And I would say the same thing, So
we don't. Yeah, that's not us though. We don't do that.
Right, but that could be a valid thing. I'm just saying, like, you got what we were going for. Whether we got there on every single beat, that's your subjective decision, is what I mean.
Yeah, and I think we talk about this with a lot of films where there are great films that aren't not every piece of a film has to be perfect for a film to be great. Like you pick things in and you're like, wow, that piece of this, I will remember that piece of this film for XYZ reason. It doesn't mean the entire film has to be, knocking you over at every stage. And I think this is a great example of that.
I mean, look, I've sat in a editorial bay after a movie has been shot, literally, and watched something and said, this is the absolute worst thing I have ever seen. I don't even know what we're going to do with this. I don't.
What now?
And been in a room with other people who look at me and say, yeah, what the fuck? And I will say High Voltage was never that. And just to throw in my beat, since we're running out of time and I'm going to go out of turn, the scene by the van where the acting that happens outside the club by the van, I think that scene is quite it's actually really, really
before
good.
the lightning,
right before the lightning,
before the lightning strike. There's some moments where the whole gang is there, like the Scooby-Doo gang is there together before the strike. The water is down. The mystery machine is there, and they're having a real conversation about things that affect them with the old man who runs the water park. And like it's the young kids and the old man, and they're having this conversation. And I think that part really comes across. And I've always liked that scene. So that would be a sleeper. That would be one of my sleeper scenes. Plus, somehow we got a water truck or fucking got a hose and water, like sprayed the ground down, which, makes all the highlights pop and everything. So I appreciate that. Anyway, I digress. Ba-ba-boo. Ba-ba-boo. I'm kidding. I'm totally lucid right now. I'm fine.
All right. Who's
great
up?
Great picks. My favorite kiss, just to bring it back, I'm going to the jogger. I thought that was like a great turning point in the film because it was a little bit of the.
Nice.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's a good one.
It's the turning point of like the first one where it went from her needing this to like be a means to an end to just this is her personality. Like, this is who she is now, and that's just how she lives.
I think that's
I love it. Ryan, do you love that?
What I'm about to say might not be entirely true, but this is how I remember it. Evan Ostrowski. This is a phone. Evan Ostrowski's on the phone
because he's always on a phone.
Yeah, you got to get more blood in this one. Okay, let's think about it. How can we get more blood? We don't have any characters. Everything's kind of been shot. I don't know. More blood. Death. I need another death. I'm like, okay.
He literally said that.
And then I go to Alex and I go, we got to kill somebody else. And he's like, what are we going to do? And I think we spitballed, let's dress somebody as a jogger and just have him running through the neighborhood, and she fucking takes him down. And that was it. And it was
Michael Jones.
He's one of the fucking producers, and he could not be more happy to be. If you follow Michael Jones on Instagram, you could not be more happy to be in front of the camera. By the way, great line producer, great guy.
Amazing.
Just he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Put in the headphones. Fucking electrify me. And that's how it happened.
I thought it was nailed because it was right after that was when she showed up with like the vodka and the beers, and she got on the bike, and she's just like, let's let it ride. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah,
rock and roll.
You could, I mean, it makes sense hearing that was sort of added in, because what I loved about it was that it was so casual. It was like all the other ones were sort of like so intense, and it was this whole thing. And with that, it was just like boom, just like, oh, this jogger.
It's like
done. And then she throws out the recycling or something.
Jason was like, if Jason had parts of Halloween where he would actually leave the camp and go shopping, and just he was like at 7-Eleven, pick something up, and he walks out, and there's just some poor dude there like at the fucking video machine getting his DVD, and he's just like, chap.
Yeah, and that's like they don't show in like the Michael Myers Gordy stuff. Like, he's killing off camera too.
Yeah, the dumb kills, the kills that aren't thrilling, like pitchfork through the face.
Exactly.
I'll take the kiss that healed David Arquette's singing voice. I thought that was awesome. It was a kiss that had the opposite effect of most of the other ones. Is why I liked it. It was like a healing effect, even though it went through pain and everything else.
Very well shot. I love the way that's shot in the windows. Those are actually the porn windows if you peruse any adult entertainment.
I think that helped because that by the way, like, I could even see that Jimmy, like, hurting for money, would like skip town for a weekend and make a quick 20 grand to like rent out his house that he needs to make the mortgage on to a porn. Like, it's just the sleaze is a lot of these locations informed, like I said, the set with the real stage where Rachel becomes a rock star is, had an energy in the room, and this mansion definitely bad things were done to each other in the wall. By the way, Ryan, do you remember the ghost?
Yes.
Dude, fucking haunted house.
I also want to say this, we got killed by most people who watch the movie. And again, I'm not necessarily a fan of this movie.
Well, that's why we're here.
I'm not necessarily a fan of this movie. I have real problems with it.
What do you mean? You keep talking about that scene with the acting.
I know, but this is what I'm saying. Is that there are these moments in this movie that I think that people who actually reviewed and watched this movie, I'm not sure if they did watch the movie, because there are parts of this that are actually, in grand total, yeah, it might be a serious trash fire, but mostly there are these pieces that are actually, endearing and mean something. Like Jimmy is fucking on the end of his career and he wants to hold on to something. Of course, that's hard to sell in a story at times, but him trying to get his voice back in any means necessary, that meant something. And that scene was filmed very well. And to just kill us in general, look, I don't want to say people are just generally haters, but like, I'm glad that you guys are doing a thing. I'm glad that you guys are doing a thing where you give credit to everything and find, like, not every painting is for everybody, not every piece of art is for everybody, but to just generally come out and Rotten Tomatoes it to 0 is that's tough.
Any movie, and when you get the pre-roll,
what you guys do, and I don't think that's given enough credit. You see these reviews that are just so callous.
I mean, can you imagine if you worked at Target and there was a Rotten Tomatoes for Target workers, or Target people who work at Target, or Rotten Tomatoes
I didn't need a Rotten Tomatoes when I was teaching. I didn't want to see those reviews.
I mean, but they have those kind of, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but you don't want it only for the extremes, like
right.
They don't. Teacher, worst teacher. You want to be not on those.
Right, it's somewhere in the middle. But so I think with the advent of everyone to be able to tell a story out of their pocket, and that is good and that is bad. And I can see this movie for what it is, and it was a blessing to me, but it's hard. There's so many limitations, and it's the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And I'm not saying give something a pass. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but don't just, and I can't say these people are doing it, but just you don't kill something. You just say, you know what? It's not for me. And again, we started this with Lawnmower Man, and I'll go back to Lawnmower Man. There was a time when people went to go see movies, i.e. Ice Pirates, Nude Bomb, Lawnmower Man, all these old movies that we just went to the theater to see. We can't even go see can you imagine Airplane being made now? Like, we can't even watch that. Like, that can never be made now. And in fact, if you'd go back at just 10 years of a comedy, I'm not sure Old School could be made now. That is a problem. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a bigger diatribe and a longer show, but like, movies are meant to entertain. They're meant to free us. And this might be
an escape and whatever.
But truthfully, like, it's become such a sequel based mega, and that's great. I love them too. It just sucks that
I think this all comes back to what, I don't know if it was Alex or Ryan said before, like, where this podcast is like, we're going to the movies. We're going to the movie. We're already having a great time. What about this was fun? Not like what detracted from our time. It's the opposite of that. And it's not like it's just giving a pass. It's like what you're looking for.
And do you want to watch Avengers on TBS or TNT or the streaming platform for the 18th time? Or do you want to go and watch something that maybe you've never heard of before, like Phantom of the Paradise, which is it wacky and crazy and from the early 80s? Yeah, but it's fucking great.
In what we recorded in the beginning of this, we talked about how this movie is like none other. So it's not like anything you've seen. Whether you like it or not, that's one thing, but you're not going to be like, oh, this movie's like that other movie.
You would never say it. There's not another movie to compare it to.
Which is like the coolest thing when you've watched so many movies, to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, to have something new. This sounds amazing. Like, that's enough to get you there and invested.
Alex is like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. That and a quarter.
I kind of think we usually go through spin-offs and one change to make it a blockbuster, but I kind of think we've kind of touched on that. I kind of think the answer to both is the original idea.
That for sure. And sorry to interrupt.
The original. Go for it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but if we got Jennifer's body, what's her name, to be out, and no offense, Sally.
You're talking about Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Put Megan Fox in that role. That's a summer blockbuster released in. Let's see, we'll release it early March, and it's a summer blockbuster that rolls all the way to October.
So mark my words, if all the fucking schemes that Ryan and I are trying to pull off, like we pull them off, at the X anniversary of this movie, I promised myself I would shoot the rest of it and like put it out. Like, this is what I meant to say.
And I mean, that'd be amazing, especially if there's a way to work this as
well, here's why it works is because then I can just get the real actors and they're all old.
And I will be standing there with a shotgun full of rock salt saying, absolutely not, you fucking crazy man. Guys, thank you for having us on, man. You know, we tend to wax on, and hopefully we didn't totally take over your wax on, wax off, totally take over. But again, this is something maybe for your audience to understand that two people who worked and made, just like two audience members who can go into movie, buddies can go into a movie and come out with two different feelings about a movie or two different paths that they liked. Alex and I are very close. We made a movie together and we have two different opinions on it, but you can find things that you're really appreciative of. And I think if we all did that more in life, it would make a real difference. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm just saying, like,
I mean, whether preachy or not, that should be like our tag. That's our definition for like what this podcast is.
Find something you fucking like and appreciate it, you dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just, and it's just a great, I mean, look, this podcast came into my life some years ago, and I realized like there is just a soothing quality to the human voice that's not music. I love music. I listen to music all the time, but I think what we really crave is we just want to all be tucked in with our blankies and like someone to read to us, you know, like there's a soothing quality to the human. We're made to resonate to the sound of the human voice. So then it just becomes a decision of like, well, what do I want to hear about? Well, if you want to hear about fucking shit sucks, and then there's plenty of those options. Or
lady murderers.
Together. Like, look, I can say I enjoy like Critical Drinker like once a month. But if I watch it every day, I'm going to start hating movies. Do you know what I mean? So it's all in its measure, right? It's good to have criticism. It's good to have even just a sourpuss voice hating on shit in a funny way because they're really just angry because they love the shit and it didn't come out right. It's just that they can't just detach from that and like just find a myriad of other shit that they could love, right? And you guys are doing that. You're just like, I'm sure that you could right now rattle off why that big sequel should have been what your dream thing was and why didn't they adapt it from the comic book? It was right there and they ended up putting a giant spider in it. But like, it just is what it is, right? And you can handle that or not. It's a very Zen. Your podcast really is sort of a Zen evolution of like, you know, find the, you know, accentuate the positive.
Shut it down.
Yeah. Anyway.
So shut it down.
No, but we heartily concur. Like, and I meant what I said. Like, I used to shit on movies at the best of them, man. You give me 2 beers, I'll tell you how everybody can suck a dick. But like, not anymore. I'll just go, yeah. He gave it the old college try.
Yeah, you guys.
Know, like,
I was a movie store clerk with my row
of
my picks, and most movies went up there. Yeah, that was pretty good. They're all good for their own reasons, man.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
anyway,
thanks again, guys, for coming in. This was awesome. I feel like Grove, we were going to do Virtuosity next, but we were doing Lawnmower Man after for our VR double feature. But I feel like we got to run with Lawnmower Man next off of this.
Oh, let's switch it off.
Totally.
I think we got to, yeah.
Yeah, you got to go
seen
fresh.
Virtuosity 3 times in the last 3 weeks. But let's go Lawnmower Man. Let's do it.
Just flip it.
All right,
guys. Well, yeah, we'll be listening. Let us know when it comes out.
Well,